Hello, welcome to November 1st, aka the very first day of the Christmas season in my world. Every Christmas I always end up going back to knitting because I feel like a hand knit Christmas gift is always really meaningful to the person who's getting it, or at least I hope that it is because I've knitted so many Christmas presents and I hope that those gifts were meaningful. So for today's video, I'm going to walk you through kind of like some of my early not gifts that I knitted, but things that I knitted that kind of inspired me to start designing my own types of knitwear and types of knitted things for people based on their personal styles and like preferences. And then at the end I want to show you my favorite thing I've ever knitted and kind of talk through the new things that I'm starting to look at for this Christmas season and designing for a couple of different friends of mine. Probably the first people who got me into designing different types of knitwear were Arne and Carlos, and if you know me at all in a creative way, you know that I'm obsessed with Arne and Carlos and their very, very beautiful knitwear that they make, but I actually was turned on to them by their like Christmas ornament, which they refer to specifically as their Christmas balls, their Christmas ornament video. And after making several of their designs, I designed a lot of my own, and these are from, God, I mean, 5 years ago? I mean, a long time. And I just got super into doing all that and have a lot to show for my obsession with Arne and Carlos. And yeah, that really sparked my interest and enjoyment of knitting things that weren't just, you know, straight different stitches and like different types of scarf patterns. So after I got into them, I kind of started looking into more like Nordic patterned knitwear because that's Arne and Carlos live in Norway, and so I was thinking, okay, well, I really like all the stuff they do. Maybe I'll just look at different types of Nordic knitwear. And this is not Nordic. These are not Nordic patterns, but they are from the north. This is easily my favorite knitwear design book I think I've ever had or seen. I don't think there's a single thing in this pattern book I dislike. I mean, that's beautiful. All of the things are beautiful. And they're very Shetlandy, and they use my favorite yarn. This book is the book that turned me on to my favorite yarn, Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift. And as you can see, this is a hat, and this was my attempt at making that hat. Now I made this I think I made this in 2017, 16, I think I was 16. I was just getting into Fair Isle knitting at the time, and as you can see, my tension is, it leaves something to be desired. However, I mean, it is the cutest hat. Now, it looked better on me when I had longer hair, but I don't think it looks bad by any stretch. And even though I haven't worn it in about a season, it's still one of my favorite things I've ever knitted. Similarly, this is a Fair Isle pattern, which I copied and made into a cowl, which is gonna be funny with this, you know, turtleneck sweater that doesn't really need a cowl with it, but I just really liked the pattern, and I didn't have the kind of yarn that they wanted me to have for the thing that they had this pattern on, so I kind of just ad-libbed because I had a lot thicker yarn in the same colors. So this was definitely a favorite, and I think it was after these things that I started kind of thinking about, okay, well, how could I do this and have these designs be my own? So I think about a year later, I finished this last fall, so that means that I probably started it spring 2019. I think it started with me just having some of the Jamieson Shetland Spindrift yarn left over and thinking like, okay, well, I want to do something with this yarn. Let me just kind of like look at Pinterest and see what I can find and see what I like. So I found a video for double knitting, which is basically when you do knitting on one side and it looks the same on the other side. So basically you're knitting two pieces of knitting at the same time, but it's sewn together on the sides as you go rather than you knitting two strips and then sewing them together at the end. So I thought, you know, okay, well, if I'm knitting two sides at once, that would allow me to do a Fair Isle pattern without seeing the, you know, back of a Fair Isle pattern. Like, for example, in the inside of this hat, it looks like this. You know, these could snag on things. Or if it looks like this, where, I mean, the loops are much, much bigger. You don't want this on the other side of your scarf because there's too much room for, yeah, like if I have a cat, I mean, this could be disastrous. So when I saw the double knitting method, I was like, you know, this would kind of solve that problem. So with just, all I had was yellow and gray extra in my stash. And so I just kind of knitted around and looked at what I liked and figured out what I wanted to do. And I came up with this triangular pattern. I would go up in one color, then change color, then come back down and change color 2 stitches earlier. And so I would do this all the way to the top until I eventually had one full row of one color. I would do that, I feel like I did it twice. Then I would start going back down again and go all the way back down until I'd formed a full triangle. The first triangle on this scarf, just this first singular triangle, and see it changes on the other side, so it's exactly opposite, probably took me 4 hours. It wasn't easy. And I remember getting done with the first triangle and thinking, how long do I want this scarf to be and how much longer am I gonna have to spend on this? I will give you a demonstration of that. So I would do 4, basically, I mean, this is the halfway point because you have to have an end. 4 in one color, 4 in the next color, 4 in the next color, and this is green and gray if you can't see that. Then repeat, 4, 4, and 4. And then obviously on the back, it's completely opposite. So where there's gray on this side, it's orange on this side. And this entire scarf, which is so long, and that's my favorite part about this whole scarf, is that I could just wrap it around 2 million times and it would still be perfect. This scarf took me 8 months to make. Maybe that's why it's my favorite piece of knitwear. All I know is that, like, I would buy this at a store, which I think is always the goal when you're knitting things. So I'm using that for myself and these and this to inspire myself for this Christmas season and all my gift making escapades. One thing I'm working on right now is I'm working on a herringbone stitch, which is so cool. It's so cool. Let me just wait, I have some. I started it in this thick orange yarn because I haven't ever used this. And I mean, it's like tweed looking. I mean, I know there's a tweed stitch as well, but I haven't done it. But this is so cool to me. So I think I'm gonna end up making, I have one person's gift in mind that I think I'll probably end up making some sort of scarf in some way, probably a cowl, because the back isn't, it's not bad, you know? If I did it wide, it might actually look cool to have this be like, you know, when a scarf folds over and you see both sides. I have to get the yarns together that I'm kind of like looking at, or the colors, and draw it all out, and I'll see what I think. But that is where I'm beginning my Christmas gift designing stuff for this year, and I hope you enjoyed watching me talk about it all. So if you did, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Goodbye. The colorful, the silver